thinking outside the box, strategic thinking, is our topic. If you've all got pen and paper, there are 9 dots up on the slide. You can see 9 dots, 3 rows of 3. Your task is join all 9 dots with 4 straight lines. So I knew 4 lines. They all have to be straight, no curves, no circles. They've all got to be straight lines, and they all need to be continuous. So the lines, you can't like take your pen off the page and then do another line somewhere else. So the lines have to be continuous, they need to flow, 4 of them, and they need to be straight. And you need to have gone through, touched all 9 dots. I'll give you a minute. It's a strategic thinking outside the box activity.
That's one. Yeah, this one.
Anyone got it? You do? Have you done it before? I'll give you, hold on to it. Have you done it too, Tom? Yeah. Had you done it before? Be honest.
Years ago.
Okay. So I'll give you another 30 seconds. Anyone else? You got it? Had you done it before? Okay. 4 continuous straight lines, and you need to have touched all the 9 dots.
What does it count as one line if it goes like across the whole top row, or is that 2 lines?
One?
That's 1 line?
Yeah.
I'm doing it like
No, you're 100% right. So no one said that the lines can't go outside.
That's right.
Wherever you want them to go. That's 100% right. No one said that they had to stay within. You mean if the line goes there?
Okay, so if you go from on that bottom one, if you go from 1 dot and then to the next, is that 2 or is that 1?
Oh, do you mean if you went to
Is that that's 1?
one? I'll give you a clue.
I've done
The
it.
first line would be something like this. Watch my finger. Can you see that? That would be something like the first line. 4 continuous straight lines. And as accountants, this is a difficult activity. I'll tell you why in a minute. Yeah, exactly. 4 continuous straight lines. Okay, you ready to see the answer? Look. So, you could do it in a variety of ways, right? But watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4. But you could just as easily have done it the other way. You found it hard because research shows, and what human tendency is, that you stuck within the, you saw the dots as a box. Can you see what I've just said? You saw the dots as a box. Who went outside of the box? Yeah, only 3 or 4 people. Why did you assume that it was like within the confines? Like, why did you see those dots as a box?
I thought I had it, but apparently not. So I stopped there.
But why did you see the dots as a box?
Because they were within a box.
Because you look at it, well,
It was within a square.
It's a square box.
because you said, but I could not, it could have been like this without that other square. Do you see what I'm saying? That when we see, we tend to come to conclusions. The way our brain works is you tend to see A, B, C, and assume that equals D. Does that make sense? We just do that as humans. So when you see dots, you see those 9 dots, and the way that they're arranged, we go, oh, box.
You also reiterated that they were in a box.
Do you know?
Yep.
Okay. Well, it's called think outside the box. So those that got it, how did you work it out? Anyone that hadn't done it before but was able to work it out, how did you do it? So you needed to go outside of that box, yeah? You needed to go outside. So Tanya, in real life though, how is that appropriate and applicable to how we work, for example?
Depends if you're a person that likes to live within the rules, or if you can have an attitude of bending the rules.
Is it a case of bending, breaking rules? Does it need to be? Does it need to be
It
bending?
involves some lateral thought.
Yeah, but that's not bending, breaking rules though. Because then you would go into, do you need to drive on that side of the road? Do you need to stop at red traffic signs? Do you see what I mean? Like, if you're talking rules, what I mean by that is laws and breaking, bending.
Then you can the interpretation of what rules as well. Are they self-inflicted rules? Are they rules that are very obvious? to
Okay,
everyone? Yeah.
okay. So that's an interesting topic, but are we talking about breaking rules here?
Sometimes we set unconscious boundaries for ourselves.
Mm.
Yeah. What do you mean by that? Unconscious boundaries.
Well, we don't consider all possibilities. We discount some before even sort of thinking through.
Why?
Not sure.
Thoughts? Why do we have our own, you could also call them unconscious biases, unconscious biases in psychology, but our boundaries that we have, our unconscious boundaries, why?
I mean, as soon as you said that you could go outside the box, the solution was pretty clear. So I think it's like sometimes you just need a little bit of that push from outside perspective.
So I said,
As soon as you said,
you can go outside of the box.
yeah, well, as soon as Matt,
Okay.
and then
Yeah.
the solution was clear to me anyway. But it's like, I think you just sometimes some people just need a little bit of that push.
I find it interesting that when I say, the minute you say think outside the box, there are people always that go, oh, I see what he meant. How come I need to say that to help you or guide you to think that? Like, why does me saying, I'll give you a clue, you can think outside the box, and then people say, why does it take that?
Sometimes you just get like too used to, I think complacency maybe, I don't know. But yeah, sometimes you just get too used to doing like certain things and, maybe taking a bit, abstract here, but you could use that example being like, well, you just get used to like the rules and procedures and you keep following and you don't look for ways to sort of innovate. So I guess that's sort of the analogy you can use there. Yeah.
There's a concept called mental fitness. So what I mean is, you go to the gym and you lift weights and you're on the treadmill and you do all your stretching and all your activity. So the reason you do that is to get fit or to feel good physically. No one ever teaches us that the same concept applies mentally. Does that make sense? Mental fitness means you're not just born with a brain that you just keep and you do nothing. Like you work it. You work it. It takes a lot of work. That's what people do. If anyone's heard of mindfulness, and there's whole huge areas now in terms of relaxation and stress management, managing your thoughts, being able to be positive, feeling grateful. There's a lot of research being done at the moment, and there are amazing photos, like MRI, like people put through machines and getting MRI images of people's brains when they feel gratitude. If you see there's a photo of it, there's like an image of a brain, starting point, and then there's an image of a brain of someone that's been told, I want you to feel grateful for the next X amount of time. It changes the composition of the brain. It's amazing. Feeling gratitude changes the composition of your brain. So your concept of mental fitness and what we're saying is, are you saying that we become mentally lazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In some ways, yeah.
That you're taught, do this, do this, do this, and you just do it because you're told that that's the best way to do it. At some point in our lives, we learn it's easier just to fit in and to just be like everybody else. What would you say?
Yeah, I was actually going to go further into the learning process, like with, how firm, and you have a lot of processes with, and therefore some people, or a lot of us, don't necessarily think, oh, okay, a system does this, we need to do it this way. Is there another way to do it? Is there a better way to do it? Something better for the client in some sort of way. So I think I think we're taught, in whatever way we're taught, by systems, but then there's, I think, a huge amount of people now who are expanding the technology space and expanding that thinking outside the box space, and that's why we're seeing everything go so fast.
Good.
Because it's not just limited.
Okay. So what does thinking outside the box mean?
Being innovative.
Different perspective.
Good. So you're using really, really interesting words. So thinking outside the box, it's a concept we've all heard. Try to think outside the box. Use think outside the box thinking. It's a concept we're used to. So think outside the box, being creative, being innovative. What other types of things go with that?
Imaginative.
Be imaginative. So what you're talking about is alternatives in a lot of ways. Being creative, being imaginative, being innovative. You're talking about alternatives, which means, I think what you're saying is there are other ways to do things, not just the one way.
You also need to take risks and be prepared to do the trial and error as well.
There's risks in there. So thinking outside the box, being innovative, being creative, challenging, asking why, taking risks, looking at different ways of doing things. Why do we not do that more then, if it's so good?
I think the main reason we don't do it more is partially productivity. A lot of the time it's seen as we've only got, so much time on our hands. We know that this way works. It's easier to stick with what works and it's more productive. Whereas when because I know for me, my brain instantly just thought, what's the quickest way to get the answer? I want to do it quickly and get that result. But sometimes it does require taking that step back and opening yourself up to the possibility of spending longer on a task in order to do it a different way.
Because that becomes your limitation. Can
Yeah.
you say that? So you've told yourself already what's the quickest way of doing things. Then in a thinking perspective, you've put a limitation. That's your boundary. You put a wall around it, basically. So thinking outside the box is a skill.
Willing to make mistakes, though, I think.
And you've got to be willing to make mistakes. Now, there's a lot of little bits in there. Number one is you need to be in an environment where it's okay to make mistakes. So if I work somewhere where I'm scared, that's called psychological safety. The concept of psychological safety means I can make mistakes. So being able to take risks and make mistakes, be able to not have the fear of being in trouble or judged or hurt by expressing an opinion or making a mistake. Does that make sense? So number one, you need to have psychological safety to be doing this. Otherwise you won't do it. Number two, the most common comment people bring up is time. We're trained and we want to, and we're fixated on doing things quick, fast, efficient. But if that was the case, if that's how people thought, you would have no electricity, you'd have no cars, you'd have no tyres, you'd have no internet, you'd have no laptops, you'd have no computers. Does that make sense? In America, there's towns they call them corporate towns. So there's towns where there's a factory, right? A huge organization builds a factory, and there's a town that springs up where everybody works for that organization. So basically everybody works for the one company, whether it's a mining company or a manufacturing company, but they're the sole employer, and they usually pay all the houses and the healthcare and all of that. So one of the biggest, up until maybe the 1980s, was Kodak. Do you all know what Kodak is? Mm-hmm. So Kodak for 100 years, 120 years, were leaders in cameras. Not just in cameras, anything photography orientated, the film industry, a lot of anything that came out of visuals was a Kodak related innovation. They were world leaders. We're talking, there was a town in America where everyone was an employee of Kodak. And that's all, they had probably 80% of the market all around the world, yeah? Sometime in the 1980s, obviously they had a research and development department. Sometime in the 1980s, 70s maybe even, somebody's gone to the CEO and said, our research team has come up with an innovation we need to look at digital photography. We need to look at, that's the future of photography, is digital photography, not film that you get expressed, that you take to get made or expressed at the chemist. And they got told, that's stupid, that's never going to take off. You're a fool. Where's Kodak now? And where are the Samsungs and the Apples and do you see what I'm trying to say? Kodak no longer exists. It has 0 market share. There's a company called that, but that town doesn't exist. So the world is littered with examples of not thinking outside the box and not being able to do something that is a little bit different. So time is a factor, yes, but nothing will improve if you don't. Can you think outside the box in every aspect of your life? No. If we have a fire and the fire brigade come up and we have an evacuation somewhere in here, there's an evacuation plan. I don't think there's any benefit or any merit in me saying, is there a better way of evacuating the building? And the fire department is trying to get us out, and I'm saying, I don't agree, I think we should explore options. Can you see what I'm trying to say? In some ways, you need to do quickly what you need to do. Emergency services, ambulances, police, anything safety related, legal issues, audit in terms of the the ATO and in terms of the dates that you need, the lodgements. There are things we need to do in a certain way. From a psychology point of view, ethics. So there are laws and guidelines and regulations in every field, yeah? So where can we think outside the box? Where there are multiple solutions, where there are bigger, better, more efficient ways of doing things. When you're working with teenagers and children is a really good way. Where there is a learning opportunity, can you see that? When there's a learning opportunity, so I can say to you, is that the best way of doing that? Can you see? We talked this morning, one of the topics was about questioning. Socratic dialogue means asking a lot of questions to help someone get to the answer themselves. So I'm not giving you my opinion, I'm asking questions. So thinking outside the box would be, that's great. Is there another way of doing that? Why did you do it that way? Can you see what my questions are open-ended? What would happen if you did it that way? What would be the positive? What would be the negative? Why don't you give it a go and then come back and we'll discuss it? Can you see what I've done? I haven't given any opinion. So thinking outside the box is a skill that can you see that it's a developable skill? What I mean by developable is that no one's born thinking outside the box. It's like resilience is a developable skill. It means there are skills, some skills you're born with, yeah? There's IQ tests. There are tests that some people are born with certain talents, but there are things that they're not born with that you can develop today. One is being resilient, how you manage your stress, being able to look at problems differently, becoming a strategic thinker, thinking outside the box. You could develop that within yourself today if you wanted to. So how could we think outside the box here in this organisation? Give me some examples.
Probably looking at procedures. And
Procedures, yeah.
efficiencies, like how efficient do we complete tax returns, or maybe a checklist of what information we need to complete, I don't know, trusts or buybacks.
Good. Good. What else? How could we think outside the box? Give me an example of something that we could do.
Well, the digital team are constantly thinking outside the box because we're forced to.
Your work in a digital environment and anything that's an innovative type of environment needs to be thinking outside the box all the time. Good. You could think outside the box and need to think outside the box in terms of your relationships, yeah? You don't have friendships, and I mean client relationships, colleague relationships, but also personal relationships. You don't have rules. Step one, you do this. Is there a procedure for how to make a friend? Is there a procedure for how to have an argument? Is there a procedure for how you handle Conflict? No, none of those have procedures. How do you learn? By experience. So thinking outside the box is, I don't just snap back a reply rudely because you've upset me. I'll try something else because that didn't work. We seem to have this habit of doing the same things over and over and over, even though we know they don't work. Is that true what I'm saying? Otherwise, why do you have arguments with people? We don't say, oh, I'll try something. That doesn't work. It obviously doesn't work. I'll try something new. We just keep doing the same thing, like sending text messages in arguments. You know they're going to be taken the wrong way. You know it will lead to an escalation there, but we all do it. We just think it's a really good thing to do. So thinking outside the box, relationship building, anything to do with conflict or negotiation or a difference of opinion, procedure where applicable. In terms of managing myself, can you see that there's a lot of thinking outside the box? How I manage myself, how I manage my time, my own growth, my own learning. Relationships is a really big one. Anything that can be improved. I guess you could say, can this be improved? No. Well, then leave it. Can it be improved? Yes. Well, it would have an alternative. Yeah. So what does it mean? Following on from that, we'll talk about